Hello YouTube, it is EverythingEpan here, and in this video we are doing a video tutorial on how to install Windows XP build 2465 in Virtualbox. Now this is the first edition here of the Whistler XP series of the beta for Windows XP that actually called itself Windows XP for a good chunk of the parts here. Not all of the aspects of Whistler, the codename Whistler, were removed in this build. They were removed in later builds, kind of bit by bit a little bit. But this is really the main build where you do see some resemblance of the XP start here. So that's why this is called Windows XP instead of Windows Whistler build 2465. I do want to give a some shout outs here for suggesting this video. First by Justin Game Show channel for suggesting. Also from comments further down the line, even from years ago, you've got Spongy Bubbly, Ruben is on here, and Cesar Javier Barbosa also did suggest it as well. So shout out here to you guys for suggesting this video, and without further ado, let's go ahead and get straight into it. So links will be in the description for Virtualbox, and you can download for your specified OS, and then there will also be a link in the description for the ISO for the build here. And then you can also, if you explore WinWorld site, if you need the product key, it should be on there as well. And then there will also be a link for the MS-DOS 6.22 ISO to change the BIOS state. So all of those links will be in the description. And once you have all the things you need there for this, you want to make sure you open up VirtualBox here. We're going to create a new virtual machine, and I'm going to call this Windows XP build 2465. Make sure that the version is selected as Windows XP 32-bit and hit next. It does recommend 192 megabytes. I'd recommend updating that to at least 512 megs or even a gig if you are able to. It'll run a little bit better that way. And then hit next, and then we're going to create a virtual hard drive by hitting create there, and then you can pick whichever file type you want here and hit next. And you can pick either option. You can read up on it here if you need to figure out which option would work better for you, and then hit next. And then it does recommend to have it at 10 gigs for the hard drive size. That would be enough here for this, so just leave it at 10 gigs and hit create. And it'll create our machine down here. And what we'll want to do is we'll want to hit settings and go to storage, and then we'll want to hit the empty disk. And here on the disk, we'll choose a file, and this is where we'll want to enter the MS-DOS 6.22 ISO. Again, that will be linked in the description if you need it. Once that's entered in, go ahead and hit OK, and then we'll start the machine. And it will go ahead and boot up the machine, and it will boot up into MS-DOS. And then once that loads up, to change the date, just type in date, and it'll ask to enter in a new date. And for this, it's going to be April 13th, 2001. So it's going to be 04-13-2001 for the date. And if you hit enter, it will confirm that as the date. And you can reconfirm the date by just typing in date, and it will have it specified there. Just hit enter to prompt it away there. So when that is done, you can go ahead and insert the ISO here. So locate where you have the ISO downloaded from. I think it may be named differently. I may have renamed it when I had saved it. I renamed it as Whistler build 2465, but it might be differently named. But just make sure you locate where that ISO is, then go up to machine and do reset. And it will go ahead and bring us into the setup prompt here. And then once that loads through, it will have us continue here. And so we've got the first setup screen here. So we'll want to hit enter and hit enter one more time. And then the license agreement will come up. So just hit F8 on that. And then it should have just the one partition space that we have specified there, the 10 gig one, and hit enter. Then you want to do NTFS file system quick. So it's going to format the drive, examine the disk, and then it's going to copy over the files. And then once that is done, it will go ahead and reboot here. It will prompt us to reboot, so we'll hit enter to do that. And it will reboot the machine. And then, of course, do not press any key to boot from the CD or you'll just keep going in that loop. And then it'll bring up the boot screen here, and you can see this is the Beta 2 boot screen here, since it is a part of the Beta 2 series of the Whistler and XP beta here. And it will bring us up to the graphical interface of the setup. You'll see it still resembles Windows Whistler Professional here, of course saying Beta 2 as well. Of course, there are still resemblances as said of Whistler. You can see up on the top left, it has Microsoft codename Whistler on there. So still some resemblance of that. So it'll go through installing devices, and then it will prompt us up to the region and language options. Make sure you have that specified and hit next. Then you want to type in a name. You can type in an organization if you want. It's just it'll tell you who it's registered to, the computer, and hit next. Then you want to enter in the product key again. WinWorld PC should have this. I also will go ahead and post up here. You can pause the video once I have it finished entered in. If you do need to, if you want to stop and look at this product key here, you can pause it and copy this one as well. Once that's entered in, pick a computer name. You can leave it at the default randomization one if you want. I'm just going to call mine actually Whistler 2465, even though, again, this is for XP, but just kind of still going to keep the code name there. And then we'll hit next. And then you can choose your time zone if you want. It should still have it as April 13th, 2001. And then we'll hit next. And we'll go ahead and install a network here. We'll do typical settings and hit next, and then leave it on no and all caps work group there and hit next. And then it's going to go forth with the next part of the setup of copying files and the other procedures here for the setup. So just let it do its thing here. It'll run through some different prompts, and then it will eventually have us reboot, and it'll go into the next part of the setup here. So again, just kind of let it do its thing here and run through those prompts, and then it'll restart. So I'll let that go ahead and do its thing, and I'll come back to you guys when it's at the restart point there. All right, so it'll go ahead and reboot here, and again, make sure you do not press any key to boot from the CD when that comes up, and it'll boot up here. And of course, you'll see that logo come up, and then you can see on the bottom here it says Windows XP Professional, and that's the first build where it's said this on there. So you can see some of the changes already being made to the code name there. So I'll have us improve the display here. So if we hit OK, it'll just improve the resolution just a little bit. So it'll hit OK, and then it should load us up, and it will play. Right as I was about to bring it up, it's going to play the startup sound here. Now you're going to notice it's going to come up to this Welcome to Microsoft Windows screen, but it's not going to let us continue. It's actually stuck at this screen. To bypass this, what we actually need to do is type in or hold Shift and then hit F10, and it'll bring up the command prompt. And then you'll need to type in task mgr. This will open up the task manager. And then you want to go to processes, and make sure you go to msoobe.exe and end the process and hit yes. And it will go ahead and log us into the default administrator account here. So you can see that we are now into the interface of Windows XP build 2465. And so we have completed the install of the operating system here. As for guest editions with this operating system, I did try testing. When installing guest editions, it did install, but then when I hit restart, it actually was not able to boot back up and said that the evaluation period expired. So I think the date may have just gotten reset there. So you can try to install guest editions if you want, but just be aware you may run into a problem where it will not come up with anything, and it'll say that it's expired. But if you do end up getting it to work, that's great. but just be aware of that. And of course, when you shut down the machine and try and restart it, if you want to use it later on, it's also going to expire because of the date. VirtualBox doesn't have its own BIOS where you can keep the date, so you'd have to do a reinstall if you do want to use it for future use. So with that being said, though, that is the video tutorial on how to install Windows XP Build 2465 in VirtualBox. Thank you guys so much for watching, and if you guys did enjoy the video or if it did help you out in any way, you can leave a like down below, and if you have any ideas for any future videos, you can leave a comment down below as well. And then if you're not yet subscribed to the channel, you can hit the subscribe button down below and you can hit the post notification bell to be notified when I upload and keep up to date on my content. Again, this is a video tutorial on how to install Windows XP Build 2465 in VirtualBox. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you guys in the next video.